I'm David Powell, one of the partners here at KIS. And this meeting is about Microsoft 365 and Azure Cloud. We'll throw in a little bit of a KIS Cloud discussion in there. And we have Nikki and
Josiah.
So it's the third time, so I might know it. From Arrow, they're our principal vendor for the Microsoft product, and they're here to support us today and talk about the things that we can do with Microsoft to help you have a better solution in your stack for your clients, customers.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so we're going through a little bit of everything today. But I'll let Josiah start off with a little bit about who we are.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. So, like you said, we're Keep It Simple's primary vendor for Microsoft, and that we're going to cover a few different of the Microsoft platforms today. But my name's Josiah. I'm an account manager. I take care of Keep It Simple, and I represent Arrow. I'm their local guy. Just moved out here a few months ago, and excited to have this great partnership with KIS. We're excited to do more with Microsoft, but we are a distribution vendor, and we help out with Rubrik, with Microsoft, with all kinds of things. But today we just want to focus on the Microsoft business and kind of show you some of the things we're working on, some new opportunities that we're having in the offerings that Microsoft are starting to put out. It's all about how we can support our partner, Keep It Simple.
So. Easy enough. So today we're going to be talking a lot about cloud, and so kind of wanted to start off with a little bit about the different types of cloud, and then David will talk a little bit about how KIS can kind of support you guys as well. But what we at Microsoft focus on a lot is Microsoft Azure. That's the public cloud. So really, traditionally when you think of like private cloud and stuff, you would think of having your own equipment, your own data centers. You would think of having a lot of upfront operational expenditure. Public cloud takes away a lot of that. There's really no capital expenditure to start up, to scale up. It's really all monthly expenses, right? So it's easy for a business to get started with public cloud because you guys don't have to have a lot of upfront investments. Things can be provisioned and deprovisioned pretty quickly. So it's very much scale up, scale down what you use. So if you have a lot of seasonal workers, if your business kind of shifts, this is a great way to make sure that you're kind of just paying for what you use. At the end, organizations only pay for what they use. And then we've got private cloud. So this is like the hardware must be purchased for startup and maintenance. You guys own data centers. Organizations have complete control over resources. So a lot of times we see organizations in the private cloud in like the healthcare space when we've got requirements about data security and privacy. So that's where the private cloud comes in. A lot of people will probably be somewhat in the middle of hybrid cloud, and this is what provides the most flexibility, right? Maybe you store some of your data privately, but you store some of it in the public cloud. You guys determine where you run your applications, and you control the security, compliance, and legal requirements, but with some of the flexibility of the public cloud. And then, David, if you kind of wanted to chat through KI's
Sure.
offering.
First off, who's using public cloud right now? TV? Yeah. Okay. Who are you using? Azure, AWS? AWS? Okay.
Azure.
Azure? Yeah. Okay. So you do a hybrid kind of a setup where you keep stuff on premise and also move some stuff up to the cloud?
Currently on premise, thinking of doing a hybrid.
Hybrid, yeah. It works out pretty well. Today's security environment's a little weird, right? You don't always want to let people that have to come in from the outside into your data center. So you can really lock that down going back and forth between the cloud and let the people go into the up to the Azure and have those be kind of more expendable, if you will. If someone gets in there and trashes it, you can really spin it up really quickly again, right? Also, you have burstability. So I don't know if any of you have busier times than others where you might need to spin up extra resources really quickly. You don't have to keep all that hardware sitting around in your office all the time. You can expand capacity and burst, and when you shrink it back down and not have to pay for it when you don't have that load anymore. KIS has our own cloud. It's not like a public cloud at all. It's not where you would be able to go in and build your own machines on demand or anything like that. It's more of a boutique kind of a thing. It's for our clients that don't really want to manage that at all. So we take care of all the management piece out of it. And we can do it in our own cloud. And the advantage of our own cloud is we have clients that have old applications that still have to run on 2003, believe it or not. So we can isolate that and give them a place where they can still run those applications in a virtual environment so that the hardware is still fresh and good and it's not full of holes. The operating system's still full of holes, but there's nothing we can do about that, right? So if anybody falls into that category, you can call me. I'll leave my card at the end. We can discuss how that works. But we also want to talk to you about all your other needs on there.
No, I'm just going to come around and scan your badges in for the session.
Gabe?
Yes, sir.
So why Azure? One, Azure has a wide range of services and features. You can get pretty much everything you need on there. And it's pretty cost effective. If you look at it compared to like something like an AWS, it does tend to be a little bit more cost effective. It's highly secure. So Microsoft really has its bearings as a security company. And I think that's one way they differentiate a little bit from some of the other cloud providers. A lot of that security is baked into Azure. So offering a lot of robust security threats. We could talk a little bit about what that means. But it's a highly secure platform, flexible and scalable. We talked a little bit about this, right? You guys can spin it up, spin it down. There's no monthly commit with Azure, which is nice. Kind of just use it as you need it. And then it tends to be a little bit more cost effective, especially as we think about like startup costs and maintenance. So is Azure a fit for you? It's not going to be a fit for every organization, but we are seeing it more and more in the marketplace. And here's some questions that we've kind of gotten from Microsoft to help determine if Azure is fit. So one, how do you drive innovation with budget constraints? So if you have budget constraints, are you able to scale in monthly? Do you have problems with upfront expenses? Do you have any constraints that dictate where you store your data? Some people will need to store their stuff on premise. But for some companies, that might not be as much a priority. So any constraints about where your data has to be stored, geography, all that good stuff. How are you managing your internal and external websites, right? Because you can essentially use Azure as a gateway to all of your internal websites. You can use it for single sign-on. You can use it to manage full databases of external websites for your customers too. So if that's something that you would like to manage differently, Azure is a great fit for that. And then I think the last one's pretty obvious. Do you have SQL Server or Windows Server today? We're moving a lot more people away from SQL Server, Windows Server as Microsoft starts to phase out more of those products. There is Azure Hybrid, which we can talk a little bit more about. So, you might retain some of the SQL, some of the Windows Server, while moving some of it to Azure. But these are typically the questions that we ask to see if Azure's a fit for you today. And then you could definitely reach out to David to kind of get a little bit more of an assessment on it too.
So while she's moving on, I know that some of you in here have multinational kind of organizations, and I know that there is some I can't remember the name of it, GDPR regulations where you have to store data in a locality. Sometimes you have to have compute in a locality. And the public cloud gives you that ability without having to have private data centers all over the place. I know some of you are big enough to have private data centers all over the place in here, but for those of us that aren't, that gives us the ability to be worldwide and meet the GDPR regulations.
Absolutely. And if you think Azure might be a fit, I know there's some people that were here that are on-premise that are interested in moving into hybrid cloud. KIS and Arrow together offer assessments. So we actually have pre-assessments that we can do to Microsoft, through Microsoft, analyze your environment, make recommendations of what would be good to move to the cloud, when would be good to move to the cloud. So if you are interested in a free assessment, learning a little bit more about Azure's fit, definitely feel free to reach out to David and we can get you guys started on that. Okay. So that's Azure. So kind of covering infrastructure as a service. Now we're going to hop into a little bit more specifically around AI. How many people are familiar with Microsoft CoPilot today? Okay, so we've got like a quick show of hands. That's like maybe 50% of the room. CoPilot's your AI assistant at work. CoPilot integrates with all of your Microsoft 365 apps to basically make your jobs easier. I think a lot of people get nervous about AI. I think a lot of people get nervous about replacing our jobs. But one thing that we learned that Microsoft shared with me, that I'll share with you guys, is AI is not going to replace humans. Humans with AI are going to replace humans without AI. So something to think about. We've done studies, Microsoft has done studies, 87% of organizations believe AI will give them a competitive advantage, save time, improve employee satisfaction. Again, our goal here is not to replace employees, but it's to make you guys more effective. So to chat about some ways we can do that. CoPilot's embedded across all your Microsoft apps. I'll show an example of how it kind of integrates into some of them. But honestly, we use CoPilot every single day. It saves me a lot of time, so I'll kind of go through some quick examples of ways you can use it. All right, so you can kind of see this. I'll let it play out. CoPilot in Outlook lets you kind of stay on top of your inbox. So after a meeting, it will give you a recap of the call. You can ask what your action items are. You can actually ask it to generate a follow-up email for you. So for me, when I get out of a meeting, one thing I'll do is I'll ask CoPilot to generate an email for me, and I can customize it to my tone. I can say, make it sound friendly. I can ask for a longer or a shorter email. And this saves me a ton of time, right? Now, we always want to double check our work. We don't just want to let CoPilot run wild, but this kind of gets that initial draft going for you. So CoPilot for Outlook, and then CoPilot for Teams. How many of us are using Microsoft Teams today? How many of us have way too many meetings to go to? Okay, yeah. So CoPilot. CoPilot, when you record your meetings, it's going to give a recap of the meeting. It'll list out all your action items. So for example, I show up to a lot of my meetings late because I'm always running over for the next one. And when I'm 10 minutes late, I can ask CoPilot to summarize what just happened in the first 10 minutes of my meeting. After my meetings are done, I can have CoPilot put together a list of action items for me. So it makes our lives a lot easier than as you guys are interacting with your own customers, right? You've got a record of everything that you need to do. We're making sure nothing is falling through the cracks. So I use this pretty much every single day, every single time I'm in a meeting. Highly recommend recording your calls, letting CoPilot help with some of the work. It integrates into it integrates into all of the other Microsoft 365 apps. So it integrates into PowerPoint. I actually use it to help me create a lot of this PowerPoint today. So shout out CoPilot. I'll definitely be including more examples when I send out the follow-up here.
Who in here is confused about CoPilot licensing? Me. Okay. So all this we're talking about here right now, that's on the per user license, right?
Yes.
And do you have to buy everybody, or can you buy a subset of your 365?
Question. So anybody who wants CoPilot will have to have a license, so you don't have to buy it for the full organization. And maybe it's not for everybody, right? Maybe we don't think everybody's a fit, but
well, maybe my F1 guys that are out there, like delivery drivers and stuff like that, they might not need that license.
no, they might not need it, but your sales guys, your executives, that's really where we want to make sure that we're getting CoPilot into.
You know when the GCC was that the now?
CoPilot for GCC?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I can get back to you on that. We haven't heard anything about that yet.
Yeah, it's been hard to get. They keep saying close, right? Yeah.
That's their favorite word.
Can you hit that next?
Okay.
CoPilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice? So that's kind of CoPilot for Microsoft 365 apps. Now, CoPilot also bakes into security. As I mentioned earlier, Microsoft is a security company at heart. So when we think about including AI into it, Microsoft's a secure way to do it. You control your data, you know where your data is located. Microsoft is securing your data at all times and defending it. So, secure and govern CoPilot with Microsoft 365. We're going to be able to secure access, managing organization-wide searches, restricting risky access with conditional access policies, protecting sensitive data with sensitivity labeling, and retaining and logging CoPilot interactions with retention and issue traces. So this is going to help you guys not only manage your productivity, but also your security. So when we think about how CoPilot bakes into it, security is a big function of it. And then this is a little bit about CoPilot by function. So kind of specifically, how can it help me in my individual role? HR over on the left it's going to help create training materials, right? We can put it into PowerPoint and say, make me a PowerPoint based on this document I have to put together. Communicate and create draft policies. On the marketing side, creating drafts for projects, summarizing campaign results, identifying market trends. On the sales side, which is where I sit, so I use this a lot, having better conversations. I use it to create proposals after my calls. So I'll be like, please create me a proposal based on this pricing. That does it all for me, so I don't have to. Analyzing data from previous quarters, so using it as intelligence. Really a lot of different things that CoPilot can help with in every role. IT. So this is obviously CoPilot. We highly recommend that the IT team has CoPilot. So it's going to allow you guys to create a project plan, identify patterns in data, resolve issues faster. And then lastly, on the finance, kind of similar side, right? It's going to help with reporting. It's going to help with performance improvements. It's going to help with analyzing your data. So there's a lot of different ways it can help with every single function. It's honestly one of those things that we kind of want to evaluate with organizations individually though, right? Because everybody's going to use it a little bit differently. So something that we can do with work with you guys on, similar to Are You Ready for the Cloud, is Are You Ready for CoPilot? And that's where we would work with you individually. We would get an understanding of where you are in your journey with AI today, what kind of workers that you have, what are your goals for productivity, and then we can really help map out CoPilot, right? Because we don't just want to enable it in an organization. We want to make sure that it's actually going to be valuable. And so if you guys are interested in CoPilot, exploring it, seeing if it's a fit, we can meet, we can do an assessment. And if it makes sense, it's definitely something that we can work to implement across the organization. And we've done a study. This is early days because CoPilot is a very new product, but on average, what we're seeing is that people are saving about 10 hours a month. Now, when you think about what the price of CoPilot is, which I think is about $30 per month, obviously we all make a lot more than $3 an hour. So we are saving money, we are saving time, and this is something that's just going to get better and better, right, as we all get better at using it. So huge time saver, great for productivity. Very excited to talk to you guys more about CoPilot. David, anything that you want to add there?
No, I think that any questions that you have, you can come to your salesperson, or you can come to call me or any of your partners that you work with directly with KIS, and we can engage with Arrow to help you find out what the licensing costs would be, the way that you want to use it. Let's take advantage of it, help us learn CoPilot, because it's changing as it's going on. We're still waiting in GCC space. We know that. I've got a lot of GCC clients waiting. But as this goes on, we will see a lot more of CoPilot integrating. I had some questions about some of the licensing in the security space. Does that come with G5?
Sorry?
Does the CoPilot in security space already come with G5, or?
No, it's a separate add-on.
It's a separate add-on.
It's a separate add-on.
It's always separate. It's a new product, so they're going to add stuff.
Yeah.
So it's in addition to the per user license.
Yes. So per user is mostly more where it's user productivity.
So here's the different models of CoPilot. On the left, we've got the free. This is just kind of getting up and familiar with it, but it doesn't integrate with any of your apps. It doesn't integrate with your current tools. It's really just kind of if you want to play around with AI a little bit, like kind of messing around on ChatGPT's website. Not going to do a whole lot, but it's there. CoPilot for Microsoft 365 is where most of us will be on. This is what's actually going to integrate with those apps of yours. So making sure that we can do all the things we just walked through in the presentation. Then we have CoPilot for sales and CoPilot for service. These get a little bit more niche, but basically these just add in more role-specific capabilities. So for example, like CoPilot for service will have a lot more capabilities around admin agents. CoPilot for sales will, of course, have a lot more data around sales. So something we can explore. For the most part, we're kind of seeing people on CoPilot for Microsoft 365. But if you do have a specific need around service or sales, again, we can talk through an assessment, see maybe where it makes sense to land. But these are the different models. This is how Microsoft is licensing it today.
Is there a separate module for Microsoft Dynamics?
Yes, Microsoft Dynamics has its own products. Or do you mean like a CoPilot for Dynamics? Oh, not yet, but I've heard that's in the works, so stay tuned.
What is foundational capability?
Oh, That's a great question. I have to get back to you.
I think that's mostly like when you're in a, anytime you have a text edit box, you could ask CoPilot to help you fill out that text edit box throughout all the applications that you have in 365. So if you were going to be writing in a Word document, you can have it help you stylize the document and give you a starting point. You're never going to really use CoPilot to write your whole thing, right? You're not going to be able to hit CoPilot, go out to the beach and come back and all your day's done. It just doesn't work that way. But it will give you a template to start off with on things. You can pull in different information. It will summarize it for you, and then you can personalize it from that point. Any of the applications where you have a text entering capability right there, I think that's the foundation.
It's the same as the basic chat GPT, right?
Very similar, right? But ChatGPT doesn't have the same integration across all the platforms. So, yeah. So that would be the big difference on that right there.
That's really where the value is coming in, is integrating into what you're doing today. Because we want to make your life easier. We don't want to add new processes. We just want to make your processes simple. So David, I'll let you talk through this piece of it.
Sure. Right now, Microsoft has a promotion going on for net new licenses where they are 10% off. Okay, that would be through the Microsoft 365 E3. Now, who's confused about Microsoft 365 and Office 365 E3? Oh, definitely, yeah. So my Office 365 is what we all knew in the beginning, right? It comes with your apps, it comes with the collaboration tools, and it has some little bit of security for Microsoft apps built into it right there. The Microsoft 365 adds on endpoint management. It adds on more security features in it right there. Those are the two big ones that we use most of the time. There are other things that are in there. We can talk you through, give you an idea on which one would be better for you. A little hint, someday down the road, Office 365 is going to go away. And if you're not in the enterprise space, they do have, for 300 seats and under, they have the whole business class right there. And they also have like a good, better, best in that as well. You get basic, which is basically cloud-based apps. You don't have anything on your desktop. You can get standard, which will give you the apps plus it's very similar to Office 365. And you can get business premium, which will be much similar to kind of a combination, or it's right in the middle between E3 and E5 and a Microsoft 365.
Are most of us enterprise organizations or under 300 employees? Where do we?
I'm looking around quite a few, probably a 50-50 here right now.
Perfect. It should be very applicable then, yeah. And then also, David, you mentioned the CoPilot as well.
Oh, the CoPilot, yeah, I'm sorry. That's still new on me. So 360 annual, that's per seat, okay, for anybody that's going to be using it. Again, you don't have to buy it for everybody. You can put in a pilot group if you want to put in a pilot group. Start off right now with net new licenses. Most of you are going to be net new in CoPilot, so the 10% would be applicable. The 10% on this piece right here really isn't going to work for renewals or anything. It's not my rule, it's Microsoft's rule. But we will pass this on through you, talk to your sales guy. We can work with you on the pricing. We're also working on putting in a self-service portal so that if you need to increase or decrease licensing, then you'll be able to just go in and do that on your own. We're still here to help you and do it for you. We were happy to take those calls and do it, but some people rather do it on their own, and we'll have that available.
No promotion that use Microsoft CoPilot for 60 days.
I believe they do have a trial that you can go do. I don't know if it's 60 days. Normally, Microsoft promotions are 30 days, and you can renew it once.
We do have the free version. You can try it anytime as well. But I would highly recommend taking advantage. As we know, Microsoft doesn't like to do discounts, and CoPilot is not something that they'll be discounting forever. It's just going to continue to become bigger and bigger. So highly recommend starting it up now while it is discounted. And same with Microsoft 365 E3. David mentioned the end user portal, so we can certainly offer that out for subscription management, for adding your own licenses. If anybody needs a license on Christmas, that makes life a little bit easier. So all things that we can chat through if there's any interest in that today. But that was about it from me. David, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we're coming up on time. In fact, we're
Good.
probably over time. So
And we'll assume that Microsoft's not going to use our data to train their AI model.
No.
No.
I sat through a very long presentation about this because we had to go to Microsoft's campus and everybody had that question, right? They do not use your data to train their foundational models. That's a big piece of their security, whereas I don't know if that's the same is true with like ChatGPT and some of those other models. So it definitely makes it a little
So
bit.
even with the free version, is still true?
It's still true. Yeah. They put
they would
that out
have that
flat
throughout
right
their whole, the way they build it, right? They can't have part of it steal your data, part of it not steal your data. It's not like typing into the Google search bar or anything like that. Any questions? We've been doing all the talking. We were trying to get a lot of stuff out to you in 20 minutes. I'm already over, so I might as well just keep going. If anybody has any questions?
I don't think you can.
When we've been looking at these, we know that our data doesn't train the public model, but it'll kind of train our private model, right?
Right.
How do we, our file servers and shares, things like that, we all have different security, like, HR has certain access and IT has access and sales has access. But when we all start putting data into this model and it's our private model, how do we keep that data from kind of, leaking between our different silos? If I start asking for performance reviews and somebody has uploaded, hey, help you write these performance reviews or something like that, how do we keep from seeing those, where we inherently have, rights, with our Active Directory user accounts, things like that, and our access is defined by those, but.
In the Copilot?
Well, no, but how is Copilot going to keep that data from kind of, like if I just asked, hey, show me performance reviews, is it gonna look at its trained data and show me performance reviews even though I shouldn't have access to those?
No, I mean, it's only going to be able to access what you access. It's going to,
So is it going to look at the data and apply some kind of like security access to it, based on my username or something like that?
oh, yeah. So everything's siloed based on what you can get to. So it's not going to be able to get to anything you can't get to. So if you can,
even if that's been used to train like our private model.
yeah. I mean, you're only going to have access to your piece of it, right? Not the whole organization. It's not like an organizational brain pool that you can go in there and pull off of that. So that kind of limits what you can do with it, right?
Sure.
Obviously, you'd love to be able to take everything, but if you give it a more public kind of a data source to train off of, then everybody's going to be able to take advantage of that.
Sure.
But they have a very good security model on that right there. Sometimes implementing that security model is a little difficult. SharePoint's not exactly the same as the file server, and we can help you walk through that if you like. But same kind of a thing applies in Copilot as it does trying to get to a SharePoint site.
Yeah,
If
that's
you don't have access to it, then you're not going to see it.
okay. Yeah, because that's been kind of our hesitation to, dive head first.
Everything new, right? Yeah. So the best thing to do is start small, right? In a control group and see what you can do, see what you can get into, see how you can break it before you roll it out to the masses. You never want to roll it out to the masses until you get the people that have to manage it understanding, and then the people that have to support it understanding, right? You got to get those two on there first. So, because they're going to get called. So, great question. Anybody else? I'm probably keeping you from your next session, so I should let you go. I appreciate your coming here today. I have cards if anybody has any questions, want to get a hold of me. I don't normally carry these, so